Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. This is the Millenial panel, and our title of our discussion section is Healing Our Communities and Reimagining Our World. So first off, my name is Charlene, and I want the panelists to introduce themselves and just tell us who you are, maybe organizations you're part of, or passions you have, hobbies. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Charlene. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Evelyn. I knew Charlene from attending UC Santa Barbara together, and currently I'm located in Orange County. I am an inspiring motivational speaker as well as an educator myself. I teach piano, and I also am the founder of an organization called Students Engaged in Actions of Hope. Abbreviation is C of Hope, and I'm hoping to discuss a little bit more about that today as we go.
Hi everybody, good morning. My name is Nayra Pacheco. I was raised here in Santa Barbara, so I grew up and attended Harbeen, La Cumbres, San Marcos High School, and then went on to UC Santa Barbara to get my degree in History of Public Policy. I was born in Oaxaca, Mexico, and I came here at the age of 5 years old as an undocumented immigrant. I'm still undocumented to this day. And so a lot of the work that I've done from my teenage years up until now have really focused on organizing around the immigrant rights movement. And then now within my professional work, I am a youth programs manager at Just Community Central Coast. And so I get to continue developing the leadership and organizing skills of young people in Santa Barbara County and Ventura County as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Luminesse, Divina, and I'm a singer and lyricist. Right now I'm attending school at SPCC and learning music composition and the whole language of it. I'm Charlene because we live in the same house together. It's awesome, she's amazing. And I'm hoping to get to share some of my music. I would say my style is jazzy, R&B, soul, and the music I write and create is to bring freedom and to mend broken hearts.
Whoa.
My name is Bryce. I am 19, and I am currently at Santa Barbara City College, and I'm studying structural engineering, and so I want to eventually transfer to UCSD, and UCSD, and I only have a semester left of required classes before I'm done with that. And for a while, I have to briefly talk about this because it's been on my mind. I'm sure you guys, so right before the election happened, like the night of, I told myself that if Donald Trump won, that I would dedicate the rest of my life to like social justice and speaking out about those issues that I kind of have always been aware of and have known kind of the nature of the world we live in. I was like, I'm gonna do my engineering, I love it, there's so many other people in the world, and so I kind of felt like I've come to the point where I have to feel the need to do something, to speak out, to take action. And so just because I want to do that, I'm not going to shut off the other side of my brain, which is like the math and science side, and then I kind of work both of those sides into kind of the world and my career. So, yeah.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So the first question is, as you all know, there's a lot going on in our nation right now and in our world. And so there's a need to face reality for what it is, but there's also even a greater need to reimagine the world that we want to have. So I want to ask the panelists, on this spectrum versus confronting reality versus thinking of a new reality. Where are you on that spectrum? And what issues do you think that we need to confront? And then what are some of the ways that you're already reimagining a new world or a new system?
I think that's a really important question to address, especially at this time, just in history, I guess, where this is history in the making. I always valued education a lot because I grew up with my grandparents and they're both educators. And so I had my strict share of discipline and education in my life. And moving over, so I grew up, I was born and raised in China. And this year, this will be half my life in China and half my life in the United States. So this is an interesting time for me to reflect on it and see what both sides, both styles of education have done for me. I think overall, just in my growth as a person, education was more, it started from the academic side of things, you know, just being good at math, good at science, good at languages, and that was the basis of it. But as I matured and grew more, I learned that it's the personal development and the education of ourselves and who we are and how we relate to each other that really would make a difference in the long run. I mean, basic academic stuff is important, but yes. So is going deeper and figuring out who we are as a person. And so what I have been doing while I was in university is I started launching a pilot program called Students Engaged in Actions of Hope, where I would combine mentorship, service, and I guess those opportunities for university students to connect with the greater community to learn from the professionals and the people who are more seasoned and experienced, so that there's not so much of a gap between that transition from college to so-called real life afterwards, although I think life is pretty real in college too. But, so that's mainly where I want to take it in the future as well. Just being more, bringing the life skills to the university setting so that students aren't just prepared academically and technically to perform well in their jobs or whatever they try to do in the future, but just have that support and that confidence in themselves so they can achieve and believe in themselves to achieve the amazing things that everyone has potential to dream of and to really make reality of their lives.
I think along with what you shared and the way that I really think about that is whatever realms or areas within our society that we're operating out of, to really focus on centering our humanity into those spaces. So whether it's business, education, nonprofit agencies, community centers, all these spaces, but really, service, public service sector, anything like that. But how do we really learn to think about centering our humanity, our emotions, our spirits into the work that we do, especially at times like these when it feels like we almost have to kind of turn off in different areas, right? We have to block certain aspects of ourselves in order to perform or achieve. And so how do we create spaces where we're centering our humanities and having real conversations that put us in spaces of discomfort, not harm, but discomfort. And that's really important for growth and change, for our individual and collective evolution and growth. That we need to be able to step into those spaces, but that to acknowledge that the structures in which we live in don't make room for that, right? And so I work for a nonprofit organization that does social justice work in the community, and often we find ourselves extremely worn out, extremely fatigued, extremely tired of taking care of others. And so, we have to really reflect as well on what are the ways in which our organization creates space and structure for those of us who do this work professionally to also center our humanity and keep doing this work. Because if we're not able to take care of ourselves, then we can't really perform in a way that helps young people or educators or parents that we work with to do this work themselves. And so I believe that overall is just important in all spaces. Even as we're talking about like currency or economics or Bitcoin, which is like my first time really understanding and learning about this, but how do we dare to engage in those conversations as well? That this is the future, this is where our world is going. Well, how do we redefine that to also mean that we can center our humanity, that these are not separate concepts, because we don't live in a world where these things exist in a vacuum.
That's so true. You're right on the line.
I feel going along with both of what these ladies are speaking about is just really addressing what we have suppressed over the years and pretending that everything is okay. And I feel like we're in a time and space now where everything is being brought to the surface. kind of like when our bodies are sick, like that is a time where we are focusing on rebuilding ourselves. And right now, I feel like our nation is a little bit sick, which is a good thing, which means there's healing coming. You know, all these issues that have been ignored and almost just suppressed for so long are rising up. And because of that, people are coming together. People are working for something greater than themselves. And that is something that every human being has a desire to do, to work for something greater than ourselves and to be in community. And now, in this place and time, like, we have a reason to do that. We have a reason to live out our passions. We have a reason to connect with other people and to build something greater than ourselves. So we live in we live in an amazing, amazing time to just rise up and to share what we have in our hearts and to just really make a change.
There are two things that popped into mind, and I'm going to say on that, I have to remind myself to speak on both of them. The first is the word duality, and the second is the veil. So it kind of is on the note of Luminesse, kind of the idea that this cover has been ripped off of America recently. I'm being completely honest. Being a black man in America, I understood that veil, I understood that there was that whole world that people never discussed. Like, it's something that's ingrained in you no matter what your socioeconomic status is. It is something that's just this, you understand it. It is associated with your life. And so I understood that that was the reality of America. Back before I did all of the social justice clubs in high school, and even when I first moved here. So like, I knew that was the reality. But everyone's like panicking and like losing their mind, like, oh my God, I didn't think this is the country we lived in. I'm like, no, it is. You just covered your eyes to it. Like this idea of people love like using the word colorblind, it doesn't help. You're saying I'm closing my eyes and I'm not looking at your struggle, your pain. And so kind of in those moments, yes, it's scary of being at the bottom and looking at around like, wow, this is just a mess. It's like that's when the greatest change happens. We're like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. Whenever you're uncomfortable, you try to change that. For example, when you go to bed, like you want to be as comfortable as possible so that you can like get the best night's sleep, like the best sleep possible for the next day. When you're uncomfortable, you want to change around you so that you can be comfortable. That's the first note. Second was kind of point of duality. And so a lot of my life, like I've always loved math and science, but I've also like always loved writing. So like I also want to be a writer too. People are like, what, an engineer that loves to write? What are you? And so I feel like a lot of the time, people are kind of funneled into picking one aspiration, one goal. You can only do one thing, one major. Like, it's not practical. We're such complex beings, and we have so many different things that drive us crazy, that make us happy, that make us excited to live. And so it doesn't make sense to pick one. And I feel like, definitely for millennials, we're known to like job hop. And like, I'll do that for like a couple years, and the next thing, I think that's because, well, part of so finding ourselves, but also because we have such a wide range of like passions, and it shouldn't be limited to one thing, because when you limit that, you're just like hiding that genius that you could be sharing with like other parts. So making sure to embrace all the different multidimensional, I can't speak this morning, all those different aspects of yourself.
Amen.
Okay, the next question, and it's in the title of this session, but also it's been brought up by multiple speakers. The aspect of healing. We want to make a change in the world, and yeah, we also need to heal ourselves first. So I would like to just ask you all to share maybe some healing practices that you may practice individually or communally, or yeah, just what are some practices that you've seen work for you or you would like to try?
Wow, going deep. So I was recently, actually maybe about a year, introduced to meditation. And I mean, I've attended church since I was in high school. That's when I learned about faith and dove a little deeper into that side of myself. But recently, just, like actually after a year of trying to meditate and learn, the art of it and being aware of my own thinking and just seeing what are the pains that have been in me that I haven't resolved yet because of, let's say, my family setting or that one relationship that was stuck with me since I was 12 that I never got to, deal with face to face. And all these negative ideas of who I am and that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't enough just for that amazing dream that I had in my heart. I had to face that first, I think. And that is actually a really big reason why I wanted to start Seal of Hope and help university students to really engage in that conversation with themselves and with the people who are important to them in their lives so that something gets resolved. And when people are past that emotional barrier, they're really able to do anything else. I think just healing the relationships in our lives and then hearing our own thoughts and just taking the time to really figure out what we're thinking and really why we're thinking it, and then and just actually calmly, allowing it to happen in our own head and try to tie that back to who we really believe we are as a person. That's the heart space that a lot of everybody has talked about yesterday. I mean, I know I'm not talking about anything new here. You all sitting down probably all know about this, so I'm not here to preach anything. But that's just been my learning experience, and I think it's going to be a very important transition period for the university level students to get that opportunity if they haven't already.
So I think that my journey through healing has really been twofold in terms of really understanding what the meaning of my pain, my struggles, and my oppression has meant for me as an individual, but what that's also meant for the society that I live in. And so it's taken for me to understand both of those pieces to really move forward and heal in a way that feels holistic. So one example of that for me has been growing up in a family that has had heavy substance abuse. And so growing up in a household really witnessing alcoholism, drug abuse take place, and really taking in that pain as a child, as a young person, and really carrying that with me up until today. And it took for me to really understand and learn my family's history, to understand, to let go of some of the resentment that I carried towards my family. So I think a few years ago I learned that most of the people in my family who have substance abuse or alcohol problems started drinking before they were 5 years old. What? And so, and I don't really put that out there for a sense of shock or pity or anything like that, because this is happening every single day, all over the world. But that it was, for me, understanding that was at this moment of realization that there's so much of this that is going on in this world that we don't take the time to, we only take the time to blame each other for our own individual actions, but not always really take the time to really think what's going on in our society that's prompting for individuals and communities and different populations to be part of this global oppression. And so for me, even understanding that the people in my family went through that in their history helped me forgive a lot of the things that had been done to me and helped me come to them to a place of moving forward. Like, okay, there's no dismissing the pain that you caused me, there's no justifying the pain that you caused me, but there is space for us to really heal with this together, that this issue, this larger issue, poverty, domestic abuse, all of these things have played into the fact that this exists within our family. And so how do we take a look at the larger society and look to heal that, to heal our own communities, because it didn't work for me to just blame the people in my family. It didn't work for me to just blame the people on the outside. but it works for us to come together and reconcile all of these things that are happening, make sense of it, and then move forward and create substantial policy change, substantial community change, substantial individual change that prompts us to like have accountability. How do we hold all of these systems accountable? Because it's coming from the top, right? It's coming from the top, and it's something that we call parallel processes, right? However, our society, that's why I really focus on that piece of centering humanity in all areas, because when policy isn't centering humanity, then it's not considering the struggle of individuals like myself or my family who go through these situations, but instead policy chooses to discriminalize my community. And that's not effective, and it's not effective to have people behind bars. It would have never been effective to have my family taken away from me. It would have been effective to be able to acknowledge the problem and move forward. Yeah.
I feel like I come from a really big family. So I am one of 5 children, and I'm a middle child. And my dad used to tell me, I grew up in a kind of unhealthy home. There was struggle with communicating. Not to say that I didn't have the best childhood and I didn't feel very blessed, but there was always just this lack of communication. And whenever there was any confrontation, it was always blowout. So I learned that whenever there was any form of disagreement or confrontation, that it always had to be explosive. And a way my dad used to tell me that I would deal with that through singing. Through just singing really loud and kind of blocking it out. And they would tell me to like, be quiet. and I struggled with hearing. I had 30% hearing growing up, so even if they did tell me to be quiet, I couldn't hear them. Now my hearing's a lot better. I got tubes in my ears when I was in middle school. But everything that I struggled with when I was younger is like really rising to the surface now. And a way that I just release it is through singing. Like sometimes I'll just be singing and playing my guitar, and I just go to these places that I didn't even know existed in me. I'll say these things that I didn't know I was feeling. And I think we all have that thing. We all have a way that we release, whether it be writing or dancing or singing or yoga or meditation. Like there's a way that we find freedom, that we are able to release that pent-up anger or anything that has just been suppressed for a very long time. There's a way, so I just encourage each and every one of you guys to experiment with different things and find what gives you freedom. Find what helps you release and fills you with energy. Because that's what worked for me. It's music, it's speaking, and it's just bringing it all out in front of you to be looked at and acknowledged, and then replaced with something that is true to you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So a couple of things I want to talk about. First, for me, is kind of education. I know we're talking about like healing and peace, but hear me out. I get a lot of comfort from, because you can't know everything, but from to have enough knowledge or background on something. Because the way I view it is, if you can see at least some of the pieces of what's happened before, you can draw different conclusions based on like what people have done, what hasn't worked, what has worked, and you can kind of figure out, you know, what direction you should move in based on what other people have done. Like, you learn from the mistakes of the past. So if you don't look back and see what worked and what didn't work, then you're obviously bound to repeat those mistakes in some way, shape, or form. And so, the biggest, I guess, part or moment, one of the biggest moments of my life was, so my senior year of high school, I spent like 3 or 4 months just like looking at the hidden histories of the Bible. And so I grew up really religious. And so, but I had always had so many questions, I just put them to the side and like, you know what, let's just like figure it out until I move out and like just be respectful. And so I was like, I'm leaving in a year, like in less than a year, so like I'm gonna start delving into these questions. And so I like carried around like stacks of books like this big, like all, like for 3 months, just like only reading, like taking notes, like, and so I kind of blocked off the world for a little bit. And so during that time, I kind of, discovered that I have just an innate passion and just desire to learn about like other religions and stuff like that. And so I'm also minoring in religious studies. But it was because of that research and because of the questions that I asked and that I did not deny that I was able to figure out what gave me happiness, but also kind of what clicked for me. And so I say all that to say, you can't ignore the questions you have. Don't push them aside because they are valuable and they are useful. You have those questions for a reason, so how about you seek out, you might not find an answer, but seek out ways to diversify your knowledge in that area.
Very nice.
And the second thing I want to say is, on the note of that, knowing when to come back together. Because I know for me, I enjoy being alone. It's really nice. I like having my thoughts to myself and like picking apart my day. That's really peaceful and calming to me. But at the same time, you can only do so much alone. Like you can microanalyze, like psychoanalyze every part of your life, but if you don't come back together with other people and really discuss and hear out other people's viewpoints and their mindsets, you won't get far. So knowing when to have that alone time, but also having time to talk about real issues with people and hear what they have to say, because you might not necessarily have thought of something in that way, or you might further develop your own thoughts. So making sure to better that interpersonal communication.
Wow.
Yes.
Very nice.
And I think along with that is being very intentional about creating that space, that collective space to gather. So one of the things that at Just Communities we do within our youth programs is we run support groups for both youth and adults to talk about issues of oppression. And it's solely created as a space not to take action, not to come up with a strategic plan, not to talk about policy, simply just to let out what we need to let out and to hear each other out. Because often we're so used to as a society to being reactive around what's going on. Like, okay, like this election's happening, so what are we gonna do next? And so we're jumping from like this happened to action without processing how are we feeling, what does this mean for our society? Like really just staying within our heads and not feeling our hearts. And I think that's one of the easiest ways for us to really get tired and worn out and burnt out, is to not make the space for us to do that. And so being very intentional about creating those support spaces for us to, we don't have to know the answers, we don't have to know like what's next, but we just have to trust in each other's ability to share out what we need to share out, and that will in turn help us do the healing we need to do. So even just creating those spaces. We also run tonight, because of the super moon, we're holding like a bike ride for youth to come together and just join and heal together and be with the moon, right? And so there's no particular purpose of that, but we just count on the fact that youth will show up and bring their fullest self for healing.
So nice.
I'm learning so much, and just want to piggyback on what Bryce and Nayra was saying. Yes, all of these are really important, and I think another aspect that we need to pay attention is the language that we use when we communicate and express ourselves, and just paying attention to how we express our thoughts, and if that's actually an accurate representation of what we actually want to say, because words can mean a lot. I pick on language because I grew up bilingual and English is my third language, and I just love studying languages and how they're different and how feelings are different, the way the same things are being expressed. And so, but particularly like language of sharing like our emotions and our intentions with someone. When we
Information. I think that's most important. And I'm gonna hit the hammer on the nail again of the education. Like, it's so freaking important. I don't even know how to convey some these words because I worked with this education nonprofit called KIP, and they have a bunch of elementary schools and middle schools. They have like hundreds all throughout the nation, and I think it's having a leader, a teacher who is infusing these students with like the hope and courage that they have and giving them kind of positive words to think, yes, I can achieve anything I want to. I think that is the most important in building leaders of today because I feel like at one point or another, every major leader had someone who was spewing kind of positive energy and knowledge and telling them that yes, you can do anything you want to. So having at least one person who is kind of guiding you in that direction is major. So I feel like a lot of kind of all of us up here have had that kind of interaction with someone of some kind to where we believe that, like, yes, I am confident in what I'm going to do. Yes, I don't know everything now, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to become kind of the best version of myself. It's not how I intended to say it, but yeah.
Thank you.
So another point that I wanted to make that was brought to my attention last week by a friend, also a millennial, is we are the last generation that will have lived prior to the era of cell phones. And so that just really stuck with me. I'm not sure quite what that means yet in terms of what we have to bring forward, but I do feel like there's a tremendous amount of value in us recognizing that. We are the last generation who will have known what society was like before social media, this cell phone blast. And so what does that mean in terms of us creating intergenerational spaces in the future? How can we help younger generations really value the fact that they have access to an enormous amount of knowledge and information, but still be able to summon them into the space of centering humanity without technology. And so that will be a very important dialogue that we need to have. That is as much as we need to focus in where we're going and where the future is and how much technology is inseparable from that, how do we really center our humanity in that piece? And I think as a generation of millennials, that will be a very, very significant task that we have to take on.
Good.
Thank you so much, and yeah, feel free to continue this conversation outside of this panel, but yeah, just really thank you for having us and listening, and thank you everyone for sharing your knowledge. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Charlene for coordinating and really
Take a group picture.
And as we bring our next panel up, I saw a guitar here. And the young lady who says, Miss Luminesse, she likes to sing. She sings beautifully. And I welcome her transitioning this panel with a song she'd like.
Oh.
If you'd like.
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. And so now our next panel that is coming up. And Ms. Kay, we are going to be able to answer your question here. So we have...
You can make up. I can make up. We can make up. I can, you can. We can make a difference. We all go through the challenges, trials in life.